Have you ever wondered if vampires are real? I used to laugh at the idea, thinking they were just something out of old books and cheesy movies. But now I know the truth, because I met one. And I barely escaped with my life. This isn't a story I've ever told anyone before, but I feel like I have to. So here's what happened. It all started a few months ago. I was working late shifts at a downtown diner, trying to save up some money. It was a pretty thankless job, but it paid the bills. One night, a man walked in just as I was about to close. It was pouring rain outside, and he was soaked, but he carried himself with an unusual grace. He was tall, dressed in a dark, impeccably tailored suit that looked like it cost more than my car. But what really struck me were his eyes. They were a piercing, almost hypnotic shade of blue, and they seemed to see right through me. He introduced himself as Julian and apologized for coming in so late. His voice was smooth, like velvet, with a faint and placeable accent. I told him it was no problem and offered him a coffee. He smiled, a slow, charming smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. He said he'd prefer tea. He sat at the counter, and we started talking. It was easy, surprisingly so. He was witty, intelligent, and asked me questions about my dreams, my passions, things most people never bothered to ask. For the first time in a long time, I felt seen. I found myself telling him things I hadn't even told my closest friends. He listened intently, making me feel like I was the most fascinating person in the world. When he finally left, just before dawn, I realized we had talked for hours. He became a regular after that, always coming in during my late shift, always ordering the same tea, always captivating me with his stories and his attention. I was falling for him hard. He was unlike anyone I'd ever met. There were strange things about him, of course. He only ever came out at night. He never ate any of the food I offered him. His skin was always cool to the touch. No matter how warm the diner was, I brushed these things off as quirks. I was so caught up in the romance, the mystery of it all, that I didn't want to see the warning signs. One night, he invited me to his home. He said he wanted to cook for me, a proper dinner to thank me for all the late-night conversations. I was thrilled. I spent hours getting ready, my heart fluttering with excitement. He lived in a huge, old house on the outskirts of town, one of those Gothic-looking mansions that always seemed to be shrouded in mist. It was beautiful in a dark, imposing way, filled with antiques, old books, and paintings with eyes that seemed to follow you. The atmosphere was incredibly romantic. Candles were lit everywhere, and classical music was playing softly from an unseen source. But as the night wore on, a sense of unease started to creep in. There were no mirrors anywhere in the house, which I found odd. And when he smiled, I noticed for the first time how his canines were just a little too long, a little too sharp. He led me to a grand dining room. The table was set for two, but only my place had food. He just sat there, watching me with that intense gaze, nursing a glass of dark red wine. "Aren't you eating?" I asked, my voice a little shaky. He just smiled that slow smile again. "I've already eaten," he said, his voice low. The way he said it sent a shiver down my spine. We talked for a while longer, but the easy charm from the diner was gone. It was replaced by a predatory stillness. The air grew heavy, thick with a tension I couldn't explain. He started talking about history, about centuries past, as if he'd lived them himself. He spoke of loneliness, of an endless and changing existence. I started to feel a genuine fear bloom in my chest. The romantic fantasy was crumbling, revealing something terrifying underneath. I made an excuse, saying I had an early morning and needed to leave. His expression hardened. "So soon?" he asked, his voice losing all its warmth. "The night is still young. And I have so much more to show you." He stood up and blocked my path to the door. It was then that the last piece of the puzzle clicked into place. The night shifts, the cold skin, the sharp teeth, the house with no mirrors. It was impossible, insane, but it was the only explanation. You single quotes read ... You're a vampire, I whispered, the words feeling absurd on my tongue. A slow, predatory grin spread across his face, and this time, it was all teeth. Clever girl, he purred, taking a step toward me. It's been so long since I've found someone so vibrant, so full of life. His eyes, those beautiful blue eyes, now glowed with a hungry, red light. I could see the monster behind the charming mask. Panic surged through me, pure animal terror. I backed away, my heart hammering against my ribs so hard I thought it would break. Please, I begged, let me go, he laughed, a cold, empty sound that echoed in the vast room. Let you go, my dear, you are the main course. He lunged, moving faster than anything I had ever seen. I screamed and scrambled backward, tripping over a rug and falling hard onto the polished floor. He was on me in an instant, his weight crushing, his hands like iron bands on my wrists. His face was inches from mine. I could feel his cold breath on my cheek, smell the scent of damp earth and something ancient and metallic. His fangs were fully extended now, glistening in the candlelight. I was paralyzed with fear, my mind screaming but my body frozen. This was it. This was how I was going to die. I closed my eyes, waiting for the inevitable pain. But as he leaned in, his lips brushing against my neck, a surge of adrenaline, a pure survival instinct, shot through me. I wasn't going to die here. Not like this. My hand, flailing wildly, knocked against the dining table. My fingers brushed against something hard and metallic, a heavy, ornate silver letter opener. Without thinking, I grabbed it. As he lowered his head to bite, I brought my arm up with all the strength I could muster and plunged the silver blade into his side. He let out a horrifying shriek, a sound of pure agony that was both human and not. The pressure on me vanished as he staggered back, clutching his side. His beautiful face was twisted into a mask of rage and disbelief. Black, thick blood, not red, was seeping through his fingers and his expensive suit. The smell was vile. That was my chance. I didn't wait to see what would happen next. I scrambled to my feet and ran. I ran like I'd never run before, my lungs burning, my legs pumping on pure adrenaline. I didn't look back. I burst out of the heavy front doors and into the cold night air, not stopping until the Gothic mansion was just a silhouette against the moon. I ran until my legs gave out and I collapsed on the side of a deserted road miles away. I eventually flagged down a passing car, a kind old man who probably thought I was crazy, sobbing and covered in dirt. I never told him what happened. I never told anyone. Who would believe me? I left that town the very next day. I packed a single bag, got in my car, and drove without a destination, just needing to put as much distance as possible between me and that house. I still have nightmares. Sometimes in a crowd, I'll see a flash of piercing blue eyes or a tall figure in a dark suit, and my heart will stop. I know he's out there. The wound I gave him was serious, but I doubt it was enough to kill him. I live my life looking over my shoulder now. So, are vampires real? Yes, they are. They're charming, they're beautiful, and they're monsters. And if you're not careful, they'll pull you into their darkness and devour your light. I know, because I looked one in the eye and barely lived to tell the tale. Thanks for listening to my story. Please be safe out there.